Well, a little bit earlier on, you heard forensic investigator Paul Holden lauding the successes of the state capture inquiry. But with no prosecutions so far, South Africans are struggling to see the benefits inquiries, and task teams have become, rather the tool of choice to root out corruption. But are they actually working? And is the money thrown at these problems well spent? Well, to delve deeper into this, we're now joined by political analyst, that's Professor Sipho Seepe. Joining me this morning to take this conversation forward. Prof, thank you so much for your time. Good morning to you. A country of commissions, inquiries and task teams. Prof, give it to me as bluntly as you can. What exactly is happening inside some of these war rooms, and is it effective?
Well, the best way of measuring whether something is effective is to look at the results. And in my piece, I refer to the work that has been done by Professor Makgoba when he was asked a simple question whether the health crisis in this country will be solved. He says, no, not by this government. And he was making a brutal assessment that we don't have the political will to deal with the challenge that we have in the health system. But his comment is not different from that by Mcebisi Jonas, who is the President Ramaphosa's economic envoy, who has said that the problem with this country is that you have endless meetings and plans, but no implementation. And you have to go back also to the many other task teams that the president has actually put. But when you look at those task teams, commissions, and etc., what you find is that there are no tangible results to say they're actually working. And there are two reasons that are advanced. One is that these commissions and task teams and committees that are being put are simply a mere attempt by President Ramaphosa to be seen to be doing something. And the problem with them is that they are sometimes poorly constituted. If you take the comment that Brian Molefe had made, that when he was a group CEO at Eskom, there was this war room that was chaired by the president. But he says it ended up being a waste of time because members or Eskom officials were now being prevented from doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it's no surprising that after people like Brian left, we now have load shedding. And despite many meetings around load shedding, it is no near being addressed. Yeah. But what you find is a cumulative perspective that emerges not only from people like Makgoba, Mcebisi Jonas, who were, one could say, are not anti-Ramaphosa, but they've come to an assessment, just like business people, that they hear the country is actually on autopilot. So that is the challenge. But the one person who goes deeper into it is somebody like Raymond Satnam, who himself is a former ANC activist, who has put it down to say, what we are dealing here is presidents with no ideas. So effectively what he's talking about is what you may call intellectual and ideological bankruptcy. So when he's forced to answer a question and he's not been able to answer any question, give a straight answer, what he does is to put a task team, a commission, etc. But in the end, people no longer trust these commissions because they can see that they're meaningless. And where you have a commission like Zondo Commission, which has cost us almost R1 billion, it has come with recommendations. But it's the same president who has actually promised this country to say, we're going to implement those recommendations to the full.
And that's where I want to come in, Prof. That's where I want to come in, if you may allow me, because if the president is so dependent on these commissions and inquiries, and under the same breath, we have recommendations that are barely implemented. We know these commissions are costing the country a lot of money, in millions, if not billions already. We know that they have often been dubbed as nothing more but delaying tactics? Because we know how long they can even stretch. I mean, if we look at the Section 194 inquiry, for example, where Busisiwe Mrwebane is facing her impeachment, this was supposed to have been concluded last year already. But it seems like it's another long-standing inquiry. Why not then rely on law enforcement investigations and the justice system of this country to do its job? Why then depend again on seemingly this ineffective commissions and task teams?
Well, we know the problem why we cannot rely on law enforcement agencies. Many of them are led by people who have been appointed by the president. And for them to go against the president, which would have been consistent with acting without fear or favor. But for them, it is also an issue of career limiting should they act with integrity. But we're also dealing with the president who has been diving and diving on the parliamentary. And when he talked about due process, he was saying this matter must be investigated by SAPS. But the top person in SAPS has been appointed by him. This matter, if it was reported, the NPA should take it. But the NPA has shown reluctance, even when you have a former Chief Justice who had looked at whether the president may be guilty of serious violation of the laws and the Constitution. They actually had found that he's probably guilty, but the president had to rely on the majority in the ANC in Parliament to block any further investigation. So effectively, he has no moral stand to be able to expect that others should behave differently. This is why he has sought to retain those people who were implicated in the Zondo Commission. And if you were to take an action on them, those people will also be the ones who will say, but what about Phala? So what we have is really that South Africans are on their own. We are on autopilot. It is a case of hoping that things will get better.
So in my brief question to you before I let you go, because we're pressed for time, Prof, are you saying that South Africans have absolutely no structures to rely on for accountability and enforcing consequences for any, criminal act or activity that requires consequences?
Yeah, take the Office of the Public Protector at the moment. There were questions that were given to the president last year. They have not been answered. You have had the SIU that claims to be investigating. You have had the police claiming to investigate. And this, despite the fact that there's enough information available, enough information that led to a former Chief Justice to say, here, there's enough to prosecute the president or to force him to answer the question around issues of as a violation of law and the Constitution. But all those agencies, for some reason, they've dragged their feet. And that dragging of the feet is because it is deliberate. As one of the business people saying that what the president is doing is to put the country on the social and economic precipice. And he is quite correct, because unemployment and inequality and poverty, those are deepening and increasing. And what we have are simply, we have a government of big promises, task teams, commission, but no answer or solution to the challenges that our people face.